Tonight, we cover the original monster. So grab your wooden stake and stay in the sunlight. Only on Newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
He's alive! Have you checked the children? Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
Why should you work with Ed Locke? A better question is, why wouldn't you work with him? He is proud to support an amazing lender, USA Mortgage.
When you work with them, you can expect a home financing experience that is free of hassles and headaches. They have complete control over your loan due to in-house operations such as processing, underwriting, closing, and funding.
USA Mortgage represents a lot of fantastic things, but they are especially thrilled to partner in several community outreach programs, including Habitat for Humanity, Home Sweet Home, Veterans Community Project, and many, many more. They love going to work every day, which means they love working for you. Ed wants to be your lender for life, so reach out to him today and get the journey started.
If you would like more information, please reach out to Ed Locke at area code 502-680-0953, NMLS 448908, USA Mortgage NMLS 227262. USA Mortgage is an equal housing lender. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions may apply. For licensing information, go to www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello.
Doing
Welcome
good.
back, Brett.
Yeah.
Brett's back
Good to
with
be
us
back.
today. Woohoo! Brett is back with us today.
Very nice. Very glad to have you.
Yeah.
Both you
I'm
guys
excited to
are
be here.
back from vacation.
Yep.
Vacation. And
Little Tanner.
looking sexy.
Mhm.
Shoot.
Well,
Don't y'all
well,
agree at one time now?
say
Come
that.
on now.
Don't
Jerry's,
know why I would go that far.
Jerry's gotten himself into some itch powder. I don't know what's going on with him today.
A little bit of a problem with it. It'll all work out.
One of these days, we're going to set up a Patreon where y'all can see everything that happens before the podcast, so you know what's all going on.
I think that'd be
people would
hilarious.
pay for that once, then they would pay to not see it.
Well, that's
where
okay
the real
too.
money will be at.
That's okay. That's okay too. Because, because I think that we could even take the rated E for everyone off of the Patreon account,
Oh,
and
we
they
would
could
have to.
you could get some of
Yeah,
y'all's
yeah.
nasty jokes and understand what tissues
Oh,
are all
don't
about.
even.
And...
They're nasty jokes. I'm not going to talk about your jugs that you was wanting to do.
Woo!
Yeah. We definitely need to set up that Patreon. That'd be.
Well, guys, we're glad you're here today. Absolutely, 100%. We're covering a really cool topic today. But you know what I want to talk about first?
What's that?
I want to talk about the fact I got fired from my job.
Oh,
did.
man.
That's
I
not,
did.
it's not good.
I picked up a job part-time at working at the local aquarium.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I learned some stuff.
Okay.
Did you know that a small child will be eaten by piranhas in just 30 seconds?
Not only did I not know it, I don't think I want to know how you come to find out.
Well, let's just say I no longer work my part-time job at the
I
aquarium.
would guess you probably don't.
That's a good one.
I would guess you do not. Not after that.
Well, you shouldn't have been talking smack. These kids today, they talk smack.
24/7.
He got what was coming to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about my friend that decided to get a face tattoo?
No.
Yeah, of his favorite Star Wars character.
Ooh, I love Star Wars.
I know. You should have seen the Luke on his face.
Oh man.
That's just, in all fairness, it's the second time I've heard that joke, and it was funnier the second time.
Oh man.
I love that belly laugh of yours.
Y'all know Truly, right? You know,
Yeah,
my wife.
absolutely.
So she's been reading a lot of romance novels lately, and
Ooh.
I've been making fun of her and saying how garbage they were, but she was just telling me I need to be more in touch with my feminine side. So
Oh.
so I went and wrecked my car.
Yeah.
So this is where we say Brett is no longer affiliated with our show. Anyway,
No.
Please,
He's affiliated with it.
please direct all hate mail toward Brett at brett@gmail.com.
We're going to be taking donations because he's going to be in the doghouse for a while.
Yeah, he's going to
Maybe
be
Yeah.
work on
outside.
fixing that up. for
Yeah,
him.
hopefully she
You know,
doesn't hear that.
The good news is, Jerry, I sold them their house, so I know he has plenty of room. He can sneak in, and she wouldn't even know he was in the house for
Hope
like
he
2
does.
months.
I hope he does.
Be in the basement.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good one. I like it. Oh, jeez. Okay, so we got an awesome show tonight. We're talking about the one, the myth, the man, the legend, the bat, Count Dracula tonight. But before we get into that, don't turn off the podcast. We're going to do just a quick PSA. As if you guys listen to the show regularly, you know I've had some things going on, and it's been on my heart, so I feel like I need to just do a quick PSA. About 9 months ago, I had this bump come up on my neck. Didn't think anything of it. I'm prone to cysts, so I let it go and let it go and let it go. And then I had another one come up, so I went to the doctor, and the doctor sent me for a scan, and then another scan, and then now this I'm gonna give you a 48-hour timeline just to show you the roller coaster of emotion. So when I went to the doctor, she's like, "Yeah, that could be a problem. We're gonna send you for a CT scan. We'll just see what it is." So we do the first CT scan. Didn't think anything of it. Almost immediate. I didn't even hardly get back to it. I had to do it in another city that was only 12 minutes away. I didn't hardly get back to my town here in Lawrenceburg before the doctor was calling saying, "I need you to come in the office." So pretty scary stuff. So I call the wife. We go in. We sit down with the doctor, and the doctor's like, "I'm really concerned about these bumps. I want you to go right back and do another CT scan. This time we're going to shoot you with some dye and we're going to get a good view of what's going on in there." So I do that same day, go back. And then we barely get back to Lawrenceburg again. And the doctor's called and said, "No, I need you to come back." So we go back and she goes, "Listen, I don't want to tell you this because I don't know, but it looks like you have some sort of lymphoma or you have some sort of cancer." So of course, you know, the blood drains out of your face when you hear the big C word. You know, you're scared. You don't know what's going on. She goes, "I want you to go see this ear, nose, and throat guy because it was in my neck." She wanted me to make sure it wasn't in my esophagus or whatever because I'm prone for acid reflux. So I go see the ear, nose, and throat guy. He said, "Man, you look clean here. I'm going to call your doctor, let her know that everything looks good." Had a camera go down my nose. If you've never had that done,
It sounds worse than the COVID test.
woo, it goes all the way down. You can feel it too. So before I even got out of his office, she had already called and said, "Hey, I need we're going to set you up and do what they call a fine needle aspirin." It's basically they numb you, they stick a little needle into the thing, and that was scheduled for the next day. So day number 2, we start the day doing the fine needle aspirin. Now, to my doctor's credit, she said after the second CT scan, she goes, "Everything's to quote somebody, she said, "business is about to pick up for you." She wasn't wrong. So the second day I go, they had me scheduled for what they call the fine needle aspirin, and they were going to guide it with like a ultrasound. And they did that, and within 2 or 3 hours of doing that, maybe 4 hours at most, the ear, nose, and throat guy calls me back and says, hey, your scans are clean. There's no cancer, no malignancy. It's like, awesome. But I still had my doctor's appointment, my oncologist appointment the very next day. So I guess 48 plus 1. So went on to the oncologist. I called the doctor. I was like, he says there's no malignancy. Do I need to go to the oncologist? She goes, yeah, you should probably still make that trip. So we go to Lexington. And my oncologist, who's a notable, he's one of the best in the state. I don't know how I lucked out there, but he says, yeah, I got your results back from your fine needle. I don't believe it. So it went from, oh, you have cancer, to no, you don't have cancer, to I think you have cancer. In just a very short arc.
You're right. That's one hell of a roller coaster ride.
I'm telling you. So he says, what I want to do is I want to send you, we're going to take out a lymph node. We're going to have it tested thoroughly, and we're going to see. If it's not, at worst, you have a cool scar. At best, we figured out what's going on. So we scheduled that. It was a couple of weeks later. I go in, I have the surgery. Within a day, it comes back that I do, in fact, have stage 3 thyroid cancer. And the stages basically just mean where the cancer's at. If it's just in the particular area they think it is, it's a stage 1 or stage 2, depending on how big the cancer lump is or growth is. And then stage 3 is if it has spread. And this is spread to my lymph nodes at this point. Stage 4 is it means it's distant, which means it's not only spread around it, but throughout your whole body. So that's why that's typically the worst. So pretty scary stuff. Never had surgery before. I'm 48. I'd never had surgery my entire life. Never. I'd been to the doctor more in the last 2 months than I'd been in the last 10 years total. And that, Brett stepped in because we thought that I was going to have things done in my throat. I had a lot of biopsies done, but there was no cancer in my throat. It was all in the lymph nodes and the thyroid, which is a blessing. The oncologist, the good news is in all of this is that the oncologist has said, if you have to have a cancer, this is the cancer you want to have. It's almost always curable, even if it has spread. It's very targeted. I don't have to do chemo. I don't have to do radiation. That just wails on the rest of your body. So the treatment on this is very targeted. It's very, very done on, and around the 1st of November, I have surgery to have it all removed. And then we're going to go back in a few months and treat it. And then it's done for the most part, providing all is good. I just share that to let you know that if I'd just not been hard-headed when I felt the first lump and just went and checked, there would have been a chance it wouldn't have spread to my lymph nodes. Even though thyroid cancer is a very slow grower, doesn't mean it's not going to grow. And if I ignored it completely, in 2 years, it may not have been treatable. So if you are one of those people, my hand goes up, Brad's hand goes up, we just talked about. Go once a year, do your blood work. Go see your doctor regularly. If you're one of those people that believe the doctor only gives you bad news, it's probably because you wait till you're on your deathbed to go see them. They're there for a reason. And I wanted to share this tonight just because I'm a firm believer in God. I believe God gives us mountains to prove to others that those mountains can be moved. And, this is a fight we're going to win. So go see your doctor. That's my PSA. Now, on to something more fun and exciting like Count Dracula, blah, blah.
Perfect accent.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Except for the fact, I don't say blah, blah. What movie is that from?
Hotel Transylvania.
Transylvania.
So, Jerry.
Yes.
Where the hell is Dracula from? Tell us all about it.
The short story is a guy by the name of Bram Stoker in 1897 wrote a book. according to Wikipedia, one of the most famous books in English literature, named, believe it or not,
Count Dracula.
No.
I
Dracula.
Blah, blah.
did not see that
Dracula.
coming.
Exactly, most don't. Now, the mythical
I'm going to fill
character.
my wine back up, Jerry. You
You go for it.
enthralling. Oh, do you
main
want to make fun of me on
character.
air?
Yeah, do you want to tell everybody what you're drinking real
Oh,
quick?
Do you want to make fun of me on air real quick?
Of course. Why do we have a podcast? Tonight, Mr. Steve, manly guy that he is drinking a bottle of wine called Red's Sweet Rosé. And on the front of the bottle,
I wish we could post a
it has
picture of this bottle.
We will. We will post a picture of this bottle. It has a picture of a woman, her hair, and her bright red lips. That is all that's on this fruity rosé, sweet red. It is a sweet red. At least it has that going for it. But that is the
Red Sweet
Red's-
Rosé.
Red Sweet Rosé is the name of it. Apparently, Red's is the company, I suppose. And that
It's
is-
made in Lowellsville, Ohio. So another relatively local wine. We like to do the local wines here. So-
And that's Steve embracing his feminine side.
yes, sir. Woo, woo.
and it is 13%.
And I've just finished the bottle.
And I'm going to take as long as I can for my part. I'm thinking by the time we get to Steve, he may be passed out.
Incoherent?
We're not for sure.
Well, good for me tonight that I have the smallest portion tonight because of my PSA.
There you go. But back to your original question.
Yes, tell us all about the
Bram Stoker
origins.
wrote the novel called Dracula, which starred the main character of Count Dracula in 1897. Wikipedia, I think I mentioned, refers to this book as one of the most famous pieces of English literature ever, which absolutely blew me away. Brett and I was talking earlier, and he said he's not for sure he's ever seen a Dracula movie. I'm pretty sure I have, but I couldn't tell you the name of it. I've certainly never read the book. And for this to be considered one of the most famous English books ever blew me away. With that being said, how many times did you say that this had been made into a movie?
Yeah, so since 1931, which is the first Dracula movie, it's been over 200 movies featuring
Over 200
Dracula, which
Over 200 movies.
over 200, yeah.
Absolutely blows me away. The origins of what inspired Bram is disputed. I say that because I read that on Wikipedia. Before I read it, everything else that I read didn't leave much in dispute. It says that most scholars believe that Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler, also known as Vlad Dracula, was a possible source of inspiration. We do know that he was a voivode, which means a prince-like military leader of Walchavia, 3 different times between 1448 and 1476. And Wallachia was a principality that joined with Moldavia in 1859 to form what is modern-day Romania. And yes, Vlad was born in an area named, once again, I know it's going to be hard to believe, but he was born in an area, a region named Transylvania. Vlad was a brutal, sadistic leader that was famous for torturing his foes. By some estimates, he's responsible for the deaths of as many as 80,000 people, the majority of whom he killed by impaling on sticks, swords, something of that nature. Centuries later, the sinister reputation of Vlad the Impaler took on new life when Stoker come across the name Dracula in an old history book. He learned that it could mean devil, and he gave the name to his fictional character in his book.
So, can I interrupt you for just
Sure.
a second? So, my daughter, who is a content creator as well,
Okay.
sent me a meme that she had created of a asthma inhaler, and it had Vlad's picture on it. Vlad the inhaler.
She has a great sense of humor. She really does.
She gets that from her pops. What are we
Okay.
talking about? Anyway,
Wherever. She may have gotten it from you, but she got a double or triple dose because hers, I must say, is probably better than yours.
because I don't like your jokes.
Yeah, that's got a lot to do with it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
By the way, Velad, as we mentioned earlier, Velad the Third, obviously that means his father was Velad the Second. That's where the name originally come from. His father was given the name when he joined a Christian group, a ruling Christian group. He was given the surname of Dracul, Dracul, which meant dragon. When Velad the Third was born, he was given the name Dracula, which means son of the dragon. So that's where the original Dracula name come from. So yeah, if you want to know where it come from, most people, as long as you don't go to Wikipedia, which says it's in dispute, most people think that Velad III, from what is modern day Romania, was the original source of inspiration for Bram Stoker and the original Dracula.
So where did the blood drinking come in?
There's a lot of different thoughts on that. As far as you're talking about, where did it come in the story of Dracula?
No. Like you were telling when we were talking about this pre-show, you were talking about like what would happen when this became.
Well, now you're talking
when
about
people were really
vampires,
thinking,
not just Dracula,
absolutely,
and the origins of Dracula. But a lot of people think. Let me digress for a second. If you go into almost any civilization, somewhere buried in their history, you're going to find some blood-sucking people. They might be called vampires. Most cases was called something else, but they're there. And almost every civilization known to man, it has some of these blood-sucking, blood-drinking people. There's many thoughts. One of them is that there is a disease, and I'm sure I'm going to massacre the name, porphyria, Porphyria. This condition makes a person overly sensitive to sunlight. People with this disease are relegated to the indoors because exposure to light can lead to disfiguring blisters. If you have it very bad, daily blood transfusions are sometimes needed as well. Now, when you combine those two things, needing blood transfusions and having to stay indoors and can't tolerate sunlight, you have the origins of a lot of mythical beliefs of vampires.
Is this a disease that's still around?
Yes.
Okay.
It is still.
So here's my question, and it's a bit leading, if you will.
Sure.
So if we have people that are dying unexpectedly in our village, and we have a suspect, and we dig them up, what on earth would make me think that that person that we dug up is a vampire?
Well, there's several reasons for that. One of the things that happens to bodies we know is that fingernails tend to grow on dead bodies. Hair tends to grow. And I forget the medical reason for this, but back before people were embalmed, there was many people who once they were dug up, if they were dug up, would have blood that would appear around the mouth area. Now, when you combine all of that, if they had someone that they suspected of being a vampire, someone suspected of doing some of these type things, they would often go dig them up. Well, when they dug them up and they found that their fingernails had grown, they found that their hair had grown, which wasn't known to happen because they didn't dig many dead people up. And they found blood around their mouth.
And then your gums would retract, so their teeth
would immediately believe everything that the people were saying, that these people are coming to life, these people are coming out of the grave, and they are sucking the blood out of people.
Isn't that crazy? Because that all originated when we didn't have the technology that we know now. People back then probably weren't embalmed.
Probably, yes, absolutely. We're not.
They were just thrown in a thing and stuck in the ground. And depending on how the ground was, depending on how fast they decayed.
More moisture.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you and I think have talked about this. At one point, it was believed that science was not good enough to tell when people were actually dead.
Right.
We believe that we pretty often, not real often, but sometimes buried people that were alive.
There's proof of that.
To the point, yes, there is.
Right.
To the point that people that were rich and could afford it would have a bale put inside the coffin with a string attached to, or I'm sorry, they'd have a string inside the coffin attached to a bell above ground, and would pay someone to sit there for 2 or 3 weeks and listen for the bell to ring, so they would know that they had buried a person who's still alive.
Which after 2 weeks they'd be dead. But they've dug out coffins that have scratch marks. Yep.
Isn't that crazy?
Now, that's scary.
At what time point did this cease? I'm thinking it went on well into the 1700s, if not early 1800s.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the late 1700s, early 1800s, we weren't for sure if the people we were burying were actually dead.
Can you imagine?
I'm severely claustrophobic. so
am I.
That's like the worst way to die.
There's zero. Okay, so I was having a conversation. My former career, I was a fuel truck driver, and I would go into these rock quarries where the tanks for the fuel would be in the quarry. So you go in and you go into the quarry, the cave, if you will, the man-made cave. You drive in and you'd make a turn. On your second turn, complete darkness. You've never seen as dark as it is. I can't imagine. Now, that was when we first started going to this particular quarry. As I got toward the end of that career, they'd put up, lights. But before that, you would go in there and you were thankful for every single light emitting thing on your truck. It was so dark. And you would be able, at least you could get out and stretch.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine?
No.
Waking up, not being able to move hardly?
No. I think Mythbusters did an episode on this where they had somebody get in a coffin and they had this, I guess they had like some acrylic walls put up, and then they buried them, and then they tried to see what, they had a camera in the coffin. The girl didn't last long at all. She immediately started hyperventilating, the oxygen levels dropped, and I can't
water
imagine.
Torture. Do you remember that? You ever read about that?
Mm-mm.
Chinese water torture would bury someone in a coffin type device so snug that they couldn't move their hands, arms, and there was a small hole above their forehead, and every minute or two, a drop of water would.
I have heard about this. Yeah, and Mythbusters did this ttoo. Yeah, they did the water drop, and it worked. I mean, they proved that it was
people crazy.
Yeah,
very quickly.
I don't know. Have you guys ever been to Mammoth Cave?
Yes.
So here in Kentucky, did they turn the lights off?
Yeah.
Whenever. Oh my! Talk about darkness.
It's when you go into that huge cavern,
yeah.
Right before the walkways are pretty well lit, but they begin to lower the lights. They want it to be a huge surprise when you walk out and they turn on the lights in this huge cavernous cave with waterfalls and all that.
Scary stuff. If you get lost in there, you're done.
My son's going to Mammoth Cave this weekend, actually. Nick.
Yeah.
Him and his. Now, we went a few weeks ago in the cave. By the way, Mammoth Cave is massive.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to come to Kentucky and experience one of what I believe is one of the 7 wonders of the natural world, make a reservation, because you can't come and just walk into the cave.
Isaac Newton signed one of the walls in the cave.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you go about killing one of those, Jerry?
Well,
I'm glad you didn't know the answer, because I'm going to tell you.
Thank you. Turns out you did not assign me that. You did not tell me to research that.
No, I'm glad you asked. So, everybody knows the number one way to kill a vampire is, anyone want to guess?
Wooden stake.
That's number 2.
Really?
Sunlight?
Sunlight.
Okay. You're right.
Sunlight is the number one way of killing a vampire. Vampires.
Wooden stake is a little easier to get a hold of than sunlight.
Well, you can carry it. You can put it in your pocket. You can have it on you.
The sunlight?
No, the wooden stake. The sunlight requires a little bit of work. But sunlight is by far the number one way to kill a vampire. It reduces their immortality, the genes that allow them to what's the word I'm looking for?
Regenerate?
Okay.
Like Doctor Who.
And that's how they die. To kill a vampire with a wooden stake, you need to plunge it into their heart. Not sure why that works. Old history says that a wooden piece of wood is sharp enough to pierce the flesh or in human flesh. I think that when lore was created on how you kill these, that, every Superman has kryptonite.
Yeah.
The Mummy has, I don't know, a diarrhea. So Dracula has a wooden stake. I broke Brett.
Not new.
I broke Brett.
That is not new, by the way. In 1732, an Austrian doctor has a tale of a supposed vampire, which he claimed to have killed by stabbing with a wooden stake.
Right.
In 1732.
So I wonder if it's from where they dug up bodies and they just had a wooden stake handy, because it was cheap,
Yeah.
and they were able to pierce the flesh.
Maybe.
And they was like, oh, well, they can't move now, so
Yeah.
even though they were already
it was
dead.
that and it would hold them down. So when they would do that in a casket, they would pierce them through the heart. Like Jerry was saying, this is before we did embalming. So when they pierced the heart, blood would still come
right,
out.
yeah.
So they would thought the thought was, oh, that pierced the heart. Well, no kidding. Also, you can kill a vampire with silver, but it should be used as a slowdown agent. It should not be, because it would require a great deal of silver in order to kill a vampire.
See, I always heard that with werewolves, but not
Right.
with Dracula or
That's what I thought,
vampires.
too. Apparently, the silver also stops the regenerative powers, and which is why it slows it down. You can also kill a vampire with fire. However, there's a catch. Unless it's the sunlight, it doesn't slow the regenerative power. So you'd have to put the vampire in a pot of fire for an extended period of time till it burned to bones. How they discovered this, I don't want to know.
Well, if you watch Twilight, they lay it out pretty in depth. So
Who here's watched Twilight? Oh, yeah, just you. In fact, my favorite thing about Twilight is the meme where it shows the vampire and his girl looking at each other, and in the background it shows Blade. And it says, the only Twilight anybody really wanted to watch.
I've never seen that, but that's hilarious. Me and my wife, just quick. Me and my wife had a game going on when we were dating. We'd go to Goodwill's just to try and find stuff that was cool. But we had a game going on to where we would find at least one Twilight book in every Goodwill.
Oh, wow.
Every Goodwill, no matter what it was.
Did you buy them or just find them?
No, we just found them.
I was
It
gonna
was
say.
just a funny thing that everybody's giving up their Twilight books.
I'll tell you another fun date involving the Goodwill, just to get off topic for a second. Pick a date night with you and the wife, and whatever you buy, she has to wear, and whatever she buys, you have to wear, and you have to go out to dinner in those clothes.
I'm good.
That's too risky.
That was
She just heard the joke that I made, so no, we're not doing that.
Have you done
That's a
that?
no-go.
Yeah, we have actually.
Really?
It was a lot of
Wow.
fun. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. No.
Listen,
Yeah.
I got 2 words. I got one word for how she looked on our date. Karen. We're talking bedazzled UK shirt.
That's awesome.
The culotte
But
pants.
here's
Oh,
my
man.
point. All of that will go really well. And 99% of the time, it's going to be a fun, enjoyable memory that you talk about for years. But on the off chance that I pissed her off last night and didn't know it, there is no way in Hades I'm agreeing to this.
I mean, they sell bikinis there. I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
Some people will sell.
Just
Yeah.
You gonna be walking out in a bikini? No,
some ladies' lingerie.
no
Who's
thanks.
gonna wear that?
Yeah, right. I think they have underwear.
Hey, I just got back from the Caribbean. I'm not saying there was a Speedo in my future, but there may have been a Speedo in my future, just to
I
give you all
know
the visual.
one of your primary outlooks in life is no matter what it is, you make it look good.
Exactly.
I'm not
Thank you.
arguing with that, but I'm saying women's lingerie, no thanks. That's a picture I'd never want to see. You in.
All right. Fine.
How do we go from
fine.
Dracula to
Speak
this?
for yourself. No.
So there are 2 other ways to kill vampire, and both of them are about disease. The vampire disease is tricky because it refers to 2 different conditions. heroic hemophilia, which is a disease which is introduced to the human bloodstream. Will eventually turn a human into a vampire. If a vampire gets that, it can actually counteract and kill the vampire. It's why you see in all the movies that vampires don't drink blood from dead things. The other one is Sanju de Bazella, which translates as blood weakness in Italian. No one really knows what it is or how it spread, but it's the only known disease that can actually kill a vampire. Basically, of these 10 things, if any of them fail, you're going to die when encountering a vampire. So either be a good familiar or bid yourself a good adieu.
Or, depending on the story, you might be immortal.
Right.
I'm going to move to Alaska for those parts of the year when it stays daylight 24/7.
Okay.
That's smart.
Let them come out.
Yeah, right.
You want a piece of me, bro?
What are you going to do the other 6 months?
Find somewhere else to live.
That
It's just a summer home, right?
That reminds me of that Domino's commercial, which is probably my second favorite commercial of all time. The first one is the Kmart commercial, the now defunct Kmart commercials. I shipped my pants when they were offering free shipping for everything.
Oh my gosh.
Those were the most funny, hilarious commercials ever. The second one is the Domino's commercial, which was, hey, honey, I ordered the pizza. They said they're going to be here in 5 minutes. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And she's like, yeah. What are we going to do with the other 2.5 minutes?
I like that you can tell that joke.
Yes.
But I can't tell my joke.
That one is
all of ours down.
Your joke is no. And your jokes are hell no.
What's wrong with their jokes?
You just said the H word.
Shame on me. I can't help it. Look, that's all that's left of a bottle of wine.
I might.
What are you drinking tonight, Brett?
I'm drinking bourbon, as always. Started out with a little E.H. Taylor, finished that bottle, now I'm on to some Knob Creek 9-year. So.
Anywho. All right. So what if, Jerry,
Yes.
let's flip things for a second. Okay. What if the idea of immortality is a good thing? What if you want to become and be a vampire?
Yeah.
Do you know how to do that?
I have no idea.
What?
Absolutely no idea.
Have you not seen the Twilight movies?
No one has seen the damn Twilight movies.
Oh my goodness. You're missing out.
Every young woman
Robert
anywhere
Pattinson.
near his wife's age has. My daughter was certainly in on the trend.
Oh man.
It was such a big thing during that time period.
So I was, it's going to tell my age. I was in middle school when they came out. And I remember everybody was reading them. Everybody. And then when the movie comes up, yeah, guys do. I read the first 3. My parents wouldn't let me read the 4th one. But yeah.
I remember my daughter, who was 3 or 4 years older than you, her and a few of her friends in some of the later movies camping out. There was some movie theater that was going to show it at midnight. Mm-hmm. They were going to watch it at midnight.
It was big. Yeah. It was. I mean, I remember everybody was talking about it at that point. Everybody was reading it. So
yeah, I
was like in 6th grade, I think.
So show of hands, what's your favorite vampire movie?
I don't want to say Twilight because you guys have bashed it so much.
We are absolutely going to make so much fun of you if you say Twilight.
We covered this, I think, when you were out earlier. Neither Brett nor I are sure that we've ever seen any Dracula movie.
So Dracula specifically, yeah.
Yes. But vampire movies, different.
I've seen some vampire movies, yeah.
I can't name one that I've ever saw.
It's a tough one.
I've seen parts of them. I can't say that I've ever sat down and watched.
What's your favorite
movie?
I got a couple, and one of them is a very new movie. If you guys haven't saw Renfield, that is a fantastic.
Oh, Nicolas Cage coming back.
Cage, yeah, it's a fantastic movie.
I mean, this is probably his first movie in a while.
Well, he made a lot of movies that were straight to video or whatever, straight to streaming.
At least it's the first movie I've heard of.
It's fantastic. It really is good. It doesn't necessarily focus on his character.
Is it a comedy?
It is a comedy.
Yeah, look kinda like
it's
comedy.
wonderful. But overall, I think the best vampire movies I've seen in the last bazillion years by far is Blade.
Oh my!
Come on.
Oh,
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't even think about Blade.
The Daywalker by far.
You're right. Blade is the best vampire movie I've ever
Thank
seen.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Interview with a Vampire was a good movie also.
never seen it.
With Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. It wasn't terrible.
Never seen it.
It's some girl. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about the pros and cons real quick, and then we're going to switch over to where Dracula is in the world today. So let's think. Lack of food options is probably a con. In today's world, if you go around biting people's neck and draining their soul essence, you're probably going to end up in prison. So that's a con. Immortality, con or pro? What do you guys think?
I think that's a
Con.
pro.
Everything you ever know, love, cherish, desire will die, and you'll watch them.
14 times over. That same thing will happen over and over,
and over.
Unless
The whole
you
world
make them
becomes
vampires,
immortal?
which happens in Twilight. Just saying.
Okay. Also, there's a TV show called Out of the Shadows. That's really funny. I forget what streaming
I've
service
heard
it
about that. I haven't seen it.
What? Sorry. That's for you, Robin. Okay. Aversion to sunlight. That is a con or a pro?
That's definitely a con.
Yeah,
Have to be.
I agree. I couldn't go to the Caribbean anymore.
Yeah,
Shape shifting. Shifting from a human to a bat.
Oh, that'd be a pro.
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Absolutely a pro.
Absolutely.
I agree. Public opinion.
What, negative public opinion?
Well, I mean,
This is
everybody's
public opinion.
going to
period.
want to kill you if they know about you. So,
So probably a con.
yeah, I would
probably
say it's
so.
a con.
Yeah, okay. So if you do want to convert to being a vampire, all you have to do is search out a vampire and be bitten. Chances are, however, he's going to lie to you because vampires are very stingy. They don't want to share their power of immortality unless they make you their familiar, in which case you will be a servant to the vampire for the rest of your, well, for immortality.
When you put those two facts together, that alone proves that vampires are mythical. And don't exist. They never die. And they do bite some people. So
Listen.
sooner or later, everyone will be a vampire.
Listen, I'm just going to tell you that, and I'm going to say this because she listens to our show. There's
You
this
know one.
wonderful lady, Patricia, who I swear is a vampire. I tell her every day that I'm going to bring a wooden stake, and she goes, So anyway, Brett, this show is going way over, probably because of my PS.
Mine's going to be quick. So,
Tell us about where vampires, Dracula, what's going on in the world today?
yeah. So, Jerry kind of stole my thunder a little bit. So, one of the things I was going to talk about was just the fact that there's been over 200 movies, like I said,
200 movies.
featuring just Dracula, not just vampires in general, just Dracula. And that's only second to Sherlock Holmes. So
What?
that's pretty good company to
I
be
can't
in.
imagine Sherlock Holmes having more movies than like God.
Right. I can't think of any movies of Sherlock Holmes other than the Robert Downey Jr. ones.
Well, there was a few that were like really
Benedict
crappy,
Cumberbatch
like
has
back in the early '80s.
Yeah, I've not seen any of those. But anyways, yeah. So around 200 movies featuring Dracula, and recently, Renfield came out. I think I was looking in 2023. There's 2 Dracula movies. Luke Evans was in Dracula Untold, I believe, a couple years ago. Obviously, the Hotel Transylvania, which was like more of a cartoon, kind of had a funny
They
way.
did that one on our cruise, Hotel Transylvania 4.
They're pretty, yeah. Oh, there's a 4th one, so I've only seen the first 3. So it's a pretty funny take on Dracula.
Hey,
But
we just got a message saying that one of our fans really liked the Zodiac Killer. If you like Zodiac, check out our last episode. Sorry,
heck yeah.
just got that in today, just a minute ago.
So I was looking at an article that NPR put out, and they were talking about just how Dracula has stayed relevant from 1897 to 2023. It was talking about how they've kind of changed Dracula to reflect the times. it started out, the first movie, he was more of like a European aristocrat. Then when Christopher Lee kind of took the role, he was more of like a Cold War enemy. And then they kind of moved on in like the 60s and 70s to like a disco era, where he had the blown hair, he had, good looks. Then like in the early 2000s, Dracula kind of looked more like gothic, the attractive young man, And I think Dracula is just such an interesting character. He's wealthy. He's a nobleman who's got supernatural abilities. And yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you're immortal and broke, there's a problem. Just saying.
Yeah. And we learned that from Twilight too, man. That dude's a doctor, and
this guy.
I'm kind of embarrassed now that I'm bringing up Twilight so much. But anyways, and I remember just when I was a kid, and I would.
We should take his man card.
Says the dude drinking wine with the pink lips on it. Anyways, just him having, him being kind of the bad guy where he's sucking people's blood. He's turning people into vampires. But some people would look at that and say, well, he's immortal. He flies. He shapeshifts. He's got super strength. He's got super speed. In some cases, he's seducing women to, become a vampire. He's creating servants and, making other people have those same powers. So just the fact that, he's got that horror feel. So you kind of fear him, but you also have those abilities that kind of create a desire. And, he's most of the time he's pretty good looking. Like Jerry over here.
That's what they say.
They wrong.
That's not what I heard before the show. Anyways,
this is why we need video.
This is why we need video. No, but I think that just the fact that he's just so interesting of a character, and he's able to be, adapted into, even, cartoons now where he's, Adam Sandler's playing him.
Or the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Grandpa was a vampire.
Which is the new Addams Family show on Netflix is a hit now. With what's her name?
Wednesday.
Yeah. That show's a hit. So, anyways, he's changed over the years to kind of reflect the times, and every generation. There's been over 200 movies since 1931. Every generation has experienced Dracula movies in the theater when they were, going to the movies. No matter what, I was looking through all the movies throughout every decade, and there's at least 10 to 15 per decade. So
isn't that insane that something,
and that's just Dracula, not including vampires, just Dracula.
Wow. Isn't it insane how that one persona and it's evaluated, like you said, it's different every single generation, has been able to dictate and take up that much camera time. It's almost, we always talk about Hollywood is more of the same.
Right.
It's just
oh my gosh, yeah.
But this is one of those topics that every single time it can be different, and it can still be good. It can still be unique. It can still be changed. I mean, the Renfield movie is far different than...
Which is a character that was introduced in the very first book in 1897.
Yeah,
right?
Crazy.
So,
crazy.
Yeah, I think that the fact that the character's been kind of fluid throughout the years has kept him current. So, every generation has been able to experience him in a different way.
Werewolves are not that way. The Mummy's not that way.
Right. Yeah.
Frankenstein's monster isn't that way. So the original.
A little bit. Just nowhere near all of them.
Oh, okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had some movies, but just not like Dracula. Right.
Have you ever seen, just off topic for just a sec, have you guys ever seen Young Frankenstein with Gene Wilder? It's a black and white movie. It's old.
No, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh.
I love Gene Wilder, though.
You guys have homework there.
Yeah.
You've got to watch Young Frankenstein. It's hilarious. Sorry. Please continue.
And of course, Frankenstein's the doctor, not the monster.
Right.
So.
It's Frankenstein's monster.
But, yeah, I think they're able to make him appeal to so many different age groups, different genders. So I think that's why he's been able to stay so current. I think
Maybe,
I was looking,
like we were saying earlier, sorry to interrupt, maybe there's enough realism that we all begin to feel that, I can almost see this happening.
well, so the article in NPR, they kind of made the comment, which I thought was really interesting. The reason he can't see his reflection in the mirror is because he's reflecting society at the time.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Which is it's kind of a cool take on it, but
Also, you would never know if you had a hair out of place. Just saying.
which he never does. I mean,
Right? It's crazy.
yeah, and I think there's been so many just vampires in general, through Twilight, through Vampire Diaries, through Buffy the Vampire Slayer, through Blade. I mean, there's been so many different recent iterations of just vampires in general that Dracula's just become an interesting character.
Wow.
So,
well, I'm glad we got to cover Count Dracula today and vampires in general. I think it's extremely exciting. It's October.
Can I add one thing?
Sure, absolutely, Jerry.
I found an article on bustle.com entitled 6 Facts About Real Life Vampires.
Ooh, real life vampire.
One of the statements is this, but are you aware that at this very moment, as you're going about your normal day, trying to figure out how to sneak out of work early just to jump on your Halloween partying, that there are 5,000 real-life vampires roaming the streets of this fair country? Again, according to the Atlanta Vampire Alliance, it claims that 5,000 people who consume human and animal blood because they feel that they need it to survive exist today.
yes, I've heard about this, and it's kind of pretty recent. Honest, I think there was
They're buying it, by the way. They're not killing people. There's people who sell blood,
yeah.
and they're drinking animal and human blood. The human is from volunteers.
This was covered in a show, I feel like, that I watched, and it was exactly that. There was this dude who was, I can't remember what the show was called. Anyways, basically this dude was a rock star, and he was kind of like, the whole goth image. But basically he made his name by sucking, I think it was Supernatural, actually, now that I think about it. He was sucking girls' blood, and it made him super popular. And then, apparently there was this whole huge cult following that was also sucking blood.
Okay, so my question is, what kind of disease are you setting yourself up to get by drinking blood
my
in
gosh.
today's world?
Yeah.
Answer that.
Huh?
Every disease that the people.
Every disease, yeah.
Every disease they had.
Back when I was doing sex ed in middle school, we're talking back in like the 80s, 90s. They said that every
You're not
person
that
you
old, are you?
slept with, no, I ain't gonna say. Every person you slept with was you were sleeping with the last 7 people they slept with. So just imagine if you're sucking their blood directly.
Or drinking. Doesn't have to be sucking, it could be drinking.
No, I can't imagine.
It's gross. Anyway, well, good show. It's Halloween season. It's October. I'm excited. Are you guys excited for Halloween?
Absolutely.
Super excited.
Brett, we're going on a field trip in the next week or so, right? Hopefully Brett can
Looking
join us.
forward to it.
We're going to spend some quality time in one of Kentucky's oldest cemeteries. We're going to go by a house that I personally had a paranormal experience in. We're going to go see an old Civil War hospital. And we're going to report on all of that. If we can figure a good quality way of recording while we're doing it, we're absolutely going to do it. And just to lead up to the rest of our shows for this month, I think that's going to be exciting.
Absolutely.
We hope that you
Looking
join
forward.
us for that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, it's gonna be awesome. I
Yeah.
hope I can come along.
I'm sorry. Everybody was looking at me, and I'm like looking at them, and it was like, what are we looking at? Anyway, happy October, happy day or month of Halloween. This is exciting stuff. We can't wait to see you soon. Man, that episode is really interesting. And if you'll stick around for us for just a few commercials, we have another great story to tell you.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. When it comes to buying a home, the process can be overwhelming and confusing. With so many options, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why it's important to work with a certified mortgage loan originator. I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process and find the best mortgage option for you. I will work with you every step of the way to ensure that you are getting the best deal possible. So if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please reach out to me at 502-680-0953. So don't take on the stress of buying a home alone. Work with me and I will make your dream a reality. Trust the professionals and make your home buying experience a positive one. MLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is equal housing opportunity.
If you want us to review or rate your product on air, if you have suggestions for new episodes, awesome ghost stories, or anything else, please reach out to us. Our email address is newsworthywithsteveandjerry@gmail.com. Our text number is area code 540-709-1318.
And now, back to the story. The Gates of Hell Cemetery in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. The Gates of Hell Cemetery is quite simply a nickname for a haunted cemetery. Its real name is the Casey Cemetery. It's also known as Hell Cemetery. The cemetery is located to and along the same road as the Bethlehem Academy, which is Elizabethtown's other haunted location. The Gates of Hell Cemetery is heavily overgrown with grass and trees, and there are gravestones that are evident, but most of them are barely visible. The cemetery is very old. Some of the grave sites date back to the 17 and 1800s, but most of the people there are sadly unknown. Paranormal occurrences that happen at the cemetery are pretty average. People have seen orbs, felt feelings of being watched, and other such things associated with cemeteries. However, other people believe that the cemetery is not quite that normal. Quite a few people have said that Satanists have practiced out of the Gates of Hell Cemetery and do sacrifices with bones and burnt wood being found many, many times. Many say the Gates of Hell is a very haunted cemetery. So scary, some may argue, that they will not go into the cemetery by themselves. One group reported while they were there was once a large, bright green orb that was suspended in midair above them. It stayed there for a couple of minutes, they say, and then shot up into the sky so fast it looked like it had just disappeared. Reports of screams coming from in and around the cemetery have also been reported, as well as seeing shadow people walking around. Many have also claimed to have electrical problems with their cars anywhere near the cemetery. The Gates of Hell Cemetery is located out in the middle of nowhere, a couple of miles from the end of St. John Road. Take St. John Road to out of Elizabethtown and drive along it for a ways. Eventually, you'll see Bethlehem Academy, which is now a restaurant. Drive on past that, go a few more miles out, and you'll find the Casey Cemetery. It may not be very prominent, because it's extremely run down, but it is very visited. And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.